Things are heating up, but not in a good way.
We're talking the big heat and more today on The Undercurrent. Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, you kind of froze up there, and I was like, how are you doing that on a hot day?
I wish I could freeze up today.
I know, right? When you're living in Chicago, it's during the winter. That's a easy thing to do, but during the summer here, no. That's just something totally different. I'm trying to see what it's already 90 degrees here in Chicago. Isn't that crazy? Hot, 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 hot. How's it down there?
It is hot down here. I had the power went out briefly this morning. I wasn't sure whether that was related to the heat or not, but I'm keeping a close eye on things. But it's been pretty miserable.
Yeah, especially when you
Humidity.
throw in that humidity. Yeah, I was about to say that humidity just makes it 10 times worse. So think cool thoughts out there today, folks. Speaking of folks, let's see who we got here. We got CBC voter. Apparently it's CBC's voter's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. 56? Bullshit. You're like 26. Come on, CB. You got a young heart. Get out of here.
You're younger
Stop
than
looking
us,
for
Uncle
pity.
Warren.
Huh?
You say you're younger than us.
I know, right? That's math. Yeah. Well, CBC, stay young as long as you can. We've got, of course, who else we got here? We got Chicago Corner in the house. We are broadcasting on Chicago Corner's channel right now.
We are. And we do appreciate the folks over there for helping us out with this. They're our good friends. We want to remind folks also, if you are watching on Chicago Corner right now, you go down into that show description. There's a link to our YouTube channel, Undercurrent for You. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, we would really appreciate it.
That's right. We love subscriptions. Love them, love them, love them, love them. Yeah. And we'll take them all day long. So we had a little slip, but we're still close to 100. So if you could subscribe, we get us to the C note. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We will get to the hot weather stuff and how it's going to affect you shortly. But first, let's get to the Riptide, ripping them right from the headlines. Bling, bling. Mostly Supreme Court stuff or court stuff anyway.
Yeah, they've got a lot of decisions that came in.
Yeah. And it seems like some of them are pretty good for a change, or at least one of them is. U.S. Supreme Court upholds birthright citizenship, strikes down President Trump's order. So and this is talking about children who are born here, even if their parents are illegal immigrants. If you're born here, then you're a citizen. That's how it works. And apparently that's how it's still going to work. The Supreme Court on Tuesday morning struck down Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. The court ruled 6-3 to strike down the president's order. The decision upholds the longstanding view that the Constitution's 14th Amendment grants citizenship to nearly everyone born on American soil. For the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote, citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. We keep that promise today. In his dissent, Justice Clarence Thomas, so shocking, Clarence Thomas would dissent to this, said the ruling adds to the sad history of the 14th Amendment, which was designed and understood to secure equal rights for the freed blacks, but has instead been repurposed for political projects. Oh, yes. Projection much there, Clarence? On Monday, Trump was asked if he would accept the loss in the case. He said, I guess I have to accept. He said, it's the Supreme Court, so I'll accept. I think it's very bad for our nation. We're the only nation that does it. No other nation does that birthright citizenship nonsense. Well, Trump has often claimed that the U.S. is the only country that has birthright citizenship. More than 30 other countries allow it. Wow, how about that? Trump full of shit. Boy, you go figure. That's you never hear that. So, yeah, down here in South America, all these in These are all unrestricted birthright citizenships here. You got Tanzania, Pakistan, yes, Europe, Russia, much of Southeast Asia, and most of Africa, except for Tanzania. But most of South America does it. We do it. The Canadians do it. The Mexicans do it. Central Americans do it. So Trump probably
even educated bees do it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you would think Trump, being as smart as he is, that he would know all this stuff because he seems to know everything. Writing on social media after the decision was released, Trump took a different tone, calling on Congress to pass a law restricting birthright citizenship, claiming that a constitutional amendment is not necessary. The court's opinion comes from a case that originated in New Hampshire. Birthright citizenship has been protected under the 14th Amendment for more than a century. In January 2025, Trump signed an executive order seeking to deny citizenship to children born in the U.S. to parents who are in the country illegally or temporarily. The court ruled Tuesday to strike down that order. Attorneys challenging the executive order argued it could affect nearly 250,000 children born in the United States each year. In New Hampshire, legal challenges led a federal judge to block enforcement of the executive order and allow a lawsuit brought by the New Hampshire ACLU to move forward. The lawsuit was filed on behalf of a pregnant woman, two parents, and their infants. It's significant because we're talking about newly born babies who have been born in the United States whose parents' immigration status is not permanent, said Sang-Yob Kim, director of the ACLU New Hampshire Immigrants Rights Project. But regardless of their parents' immigration status, the children born here are U.S. citizens. U.S. Representative Maggie Goodlander said she also just supported this decision. The U.S. Constitution is clear on this point, Goodlander said. If you were born in this country and you remain within the jurisdiction of the U.S. of America, I say the U.S. of America, the United States of America, you're an American citizen. So, and this is the Supreme Court syllabus right there on the opinions. Yeah, I don't understand why this has to be. Why are we punishing children when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? I know it's intended to punish the parents who are here illegally, but you know, we've had this thing for 100 years. It's in the Constitution. Where are constitutional conservatives on this one? Right?
Yeah, and
Trump.
The other thing for me is look, there are already ways of restricting people coming to this country for the purpose of giving birth to what they call an anchor baby, where somebody with no ties to the U.S., just comes on in, has a baby, and then claims that, the baby has citizenship. In that sort of scenario, there are controls on that. There are these things called borders, number one, that we do have. I've even seen this in television shows where if airline staff will keep an eye out for people who are traveling internationally, and if a woman happens to be very pregnant at the time, they might have a conversation and prevent her from traveling at that point. There are ways and mechanisms for doing this, but when you have somebody who's born in a country and they don't have birthright citizenship, but their citizenship in another country might also be tenuous, there's running the real risk of some people being stateless. And I think that every legitimate and even illegitimate governments in this country, in this world, on this planet, have an obligation to prevent statelessness, because that's a real problem, not only for the individual, but also for other countries, for other governments. And so again, the person's being born, and these are the people who are, so many of the people who are crowing about this decision are the same people who are bemoaning the lack of children in this country. Clearly, I think it's the wrong kind of children and we know what they're talking about there, that are being born. What has also been fascinating to me is watching all of the former Trump supporters who are howling about Amy Coney Barrett, who has, Trump appointed her because she was a Christian conservative, and people were saying really awful things about her. I remember, who was the guy? It was I forget his name, some pundit who referred to her as a paralegal, which I thought was incredibly sexist. She's a federal judge, and well regarded for her intellect. And she has actually been she's conservative, but she's been a very fair justice. And she has voted against Trump and many times, but people were saying that now they're saying she's a DEI hire. And that, calling her see you next Tuesday, and that, women should not be serving on the courts, that sort of thing. And so it's amusing to watch what happens to team sports, or when politics become team sports, and watching what happens when people don't like a decision that somebody has made, even though they were previously on that person's team.
Yeah, and there's also the pulling up of the ladder by people whose families came here from other countries and settled here and had children here who became citizens, and now they're like, well, we don't want these foreigners in here. Like, well, dude, where did your family come from? Unless you're Native American, one of the tribes in the United States, then you're not from here yourself. You just you're a victim of circumstance. But it's that hypocrisy, right? And these a lot of these conservative pundits have been force feeding their cult followers that the immigration is bad, it's terrible, and it's like, yeah, you want to watch out. You don't want to, you want to make sure the, dangerous criminals don't get into the country, but you don't throw, in this case, I guess it's almost literal. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just have to do a better job of screening people. And if they actually did that instead of complaining all the time, maybe there wouldn't be problems like that. But, it's one of those things where it's just like, I feel bad for these children that have to go through this too, and their parents are dealing with all this kind of stuff too. So a good decision by them. This one, I don't know, probably not so much, as the Supreme Court allows Trump to fire the Federal Trade Commission commissioner who's commissioning at the commission, and overturns major restraint on presidential power. How about that?
Yeah,
there's another shock. So Supreme Court on Monday gave Trump sweeping new authority over approximately 24 multi-member agencies that Congress intended to be independent. By a vote of 6-3, the justices struck down a federal law that bars the president from firing members of the Federal Trade Commission except in cases of inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. That law, a majority of the justices ruled, violates the constitutional separation of powers between the three branches of government. And in reaching that decision, the court overruled its 91-year-old decision in Humphrey's Executor versus the United States, which had upheld the law at the center of dispute. More broadly, Monday's decision was a major victory for proponents of the, quote, unitary executive theory, the idea that the president should have complete control over the executive branch. Under this theory, the president should be able to fire any member of the executive branch, and laws like the one that the court struck down that restrict his ability to do so violate the separation of powers. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts contended that, quote, the president must have the assistance of officers he can trust, although it is up to the Senate to decide whether to confirm those with whom the president would prefer to work. Neither Congress nor the courts may saddle him with those with whom he cannot work. Subordinates who exercise the president's power are subject to removal by him. Then and only then can they remain accountable to the president and the president to the people. Justice Sonia Sotomayor penned a 49-page dissent that was joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Today, she wrote, the court discards the democratic regime created by the Constitution in favor of one that distorts the structure of government to fit the majority's theory of unitary total executive control. The result, she concluded, is a president who emerges with far greater power than ever before. So the Federal Trade Commission was created more than a century ago. It has 5 commissioners, no more than 3 of whom may come from any one political party. Each commissioner is appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate to serve a 7-year term. During his first term in office, Trump nominated Rebecca Slaughter to fill one of the Democratic seats on the FTC. Then President Joe Biden renominated her in 2023 to serve a second term. Last year, the White House notified Slaughter in a letter that she had been removed from the Federal Trade Commission, effective immediately. The letter did not cite any of the legal grounds that would allow Trump to fire her. Instead, Trump told Slaughter that allowing her to remain on the FTC would be inconsistent with my administration's priorities. In other words, Trump no like her, gotta go. And, thinking he's back on The Apprentice. Slaughter went to federal courts in Washington, D.C. to challenge her firing. U.S. District Judge Lauren Ali Khan ordered the Trump administration to reinstate her, and a divided panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit rejected the government's request to pause that ruling while it appealed. Judges Patricia Millett and Nina Pillard wrote that only the Supreme Court could overturn its decision in Humphrey's executor, which in their view was controlling in Slaughter's case. The Trump administration then went to the Supreme Court asking the justices to freeze Ali Khan's order. While litigation continued over a dissent by Kagan, joined by Sotomayor and Jackson, the court granted the government's application, effectively permitting Trump to fire Slaughter and set the case for oral argument in December. And there's a lot more here.
There is a lot more here. I have a lot to say about this.
Go ahead.
Okay. What's going on here is, and there's a lot of, this is a very good article, and I do encourage everybody to read it. You can find it in our show notes. I'm putting out the link right now to our link tree. Go to our Substack, and you will actually find that if you subscribe to our Substack, it's free. You'll get that in your mailbox once a week, and you can read it there. What is happening here is that we have what we call the administrative or the regulatory state here in the U.S. That is the idea of government by experts. So we have these regulatory agencies. We have the FDA, the FCC, the FTC, Department of Agriculture, that sort of thing. And what they do is they create what we call regulations or rules. And these regulations, these people are not democratically elected to these offices. They're appointed and then usually confirmed by Congress, depends. But their regulations, their rules have the force and effect of law. This is, by the way, true on the state level as well. And what that means is that if you violate those regulations or rules, you can be hauled in front of a panel and face a myriad penalties. So their work is very serious, but to understand that what their rulemaking, their regulation making, they're effectively engaging in legislation. It's just different from what you see in the houses of the legislative branch. So what's been argued here is that the president has the right as the executive to write rules and make orders and make these decisions. That's something that belongs to the executive branch. However, these regulatory agencies are doing the work of legislation, even though it's not called that. It's rulemaking or regulation because those regulations have the force and effect of law. So what's happening with this decision, which has been around for something, and this is overturning about 90 years of precedent, they're basically returning a whole lot more power to the executive branch, in that the president can just knock somebody off a commission just because he or she feels like it. This is a very dangerous thing. It concentrates the power with the president. It removes the power of these agencies that are supposed to be led by experts, people who actually know what they're talking about, and can lead to a president having a far more influence on how regulations that govern our day-to-day lives here in the U.S. And I've been doing this since I've been doing this independent media gig. I have constantly and consistently focused on the regulatory and administrative state. We are seeing a situation where that a lot of power now is being going to be concentrated in the executive office of the president. And that is potentially very dangerous. We were looking at the FTC here, but we also have the FCC. Now, I've been talking a lot about that because the FCC, among other things, governs broadcast media, very specifically television and radio, which I point out is the most democratic form of media out there. It's free, over-the-air transmissions that anybody with a television or a radio, or was even in proximity to a television or a radio, can get and receive. And we've already seen what's happening with the FTC, with the current chairman, Brendan Carr, who has been intimidating or attempting to intimidate broadcasters, including Disney, but who has also been bothering radio stations and trying to get radio stations to play John Philip Sousa in celebration of the 250th year of America, which I'm not celebrating one bit. But he's doing this kind of crap. And now all that has to happen, the FCC now has 3 members, so they can actually do business. They have the quorum required to do business. There are 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. At this point, Donald Trump, if he wanted to, he could remove Ana Gomez, the Democrat member of that commission. And by the way, I have met her, I have interviewed her, and I have a great deal of respect for her. But if he wanted to, he could do that. Now, what would happen is they wouldn't have the quorum necessary to do business. So he would have to very quickly approve and get approved somebody else for that commission. But I believe that Brendan Carr has been engaging in dangerous levels of autocracy. I think what he is doing, it goes far outside the scope of the FCC. He should never be determining content, number 1. And number 2, he should not be using threatening language like, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And so I am very concerned for press freedoms in this country. The one saving grace is that they only have 3 people on the commission right now. So the commission would be neutered if Ana Gomez was removed off that commission, couldn't do anything, and then they'd have to get somebody else in there, which can take a little while. That's where we're at with this. And this is one commission. Consider there are many other commissions like this. And also, again, do we really want the presidency to have that much power? As far as I'm concerned, the president has too much power by being able to appoint people, even if they are being confirmed by the legislature. And I don't even like the fact that members of these commissions there's actual restrictions on what political party they belong to. There should not be, this should not be based on political party. It's extremely disturbing, and it's extremely disturbing to see this decision.
Yeah, it does look like a concentration of power for sure, and that's not definitely something not out of Trump's wheelhouse for sure. Hang on just a second. What are you doing here? All right. So another blow to Trump's agenda here from the Supreme Court. Like I said, we actually get some good news from the Supreme Court every once in a while. The Supreme Court rules states can count late arriving mailed ballots rejecting Trump-led challenge. So I think this has something to do with postmarks and whatnot. But we'll get into it. The Supreme Court on Monday ruled that states can count ballots that arrive after Election Day, a persistent target of Donald Trump. The 5-4 decision rejected a Republican-led attack on laws in more than half the states and the District of Columbia that permit mailed ballots to arrive and be counted some number of days after the election, provided they are postmarked by Election Day. The outcome spares officials the headache of changing their ballot rules just a few months before the 2026 midterm congressional elections. And this is probably going to be one of the things that severely impedes the Republicans come November, who are looking to, it's projected at this time that they're going to lose the House and the Senate. In just over half of those states, the more forgiving deadlines apply only to ballots cast by military and overseas voters. So ballot return deadlines. You can see the various states have their laws here. The before Election Day. So Louisiana is one of these things. The deadline has to be before election day. It must be received by 4:30 p.m. the day before the election. And that seems to be the only one. You get places like here, Nevada, after election day, North Dakota by election day. So yeah, and it all has to do with the postmarks. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, her ears are burning today, wrote the court's majority opinion, joined by Chief Justice John Roberts and the 3 liberal justices. Federal laws setting a single election day leave open when those votes must be received, Barrett wrote. Congress could change the law, she said, if varied deadlines for ballot receipts similarly call for a national solution. The American people must choose it through their elected representatives, Barrett wrote. Justice Samuel Alito wrote the dissent for 4 justices. Not only is today's decision inconsistent with statutory text, legal context, historical practice, and precedent, it also threatens to produce lamentable consequences. Ooh, lamentable consequences. Yeah. The Supreme Court may be a lamentable consequence. The majority's holding spawns a slurry of troubling election law questions and risks further undermining Americans' confidence in election integrity. I don't think that's going to have something to do with it. The more of the ballots getting taken from precinct to, wherever they're supposed to go to the courthouse, and they end up like at a Denny's or something. No offense, Willie. I know that's your office. I'm not talking about your office. I'm talking about another Denny's. The legal challenge was part of Trump's broader attack on most mail balloting, which he has said breeds fraud, despite strong evidence to the contrary and years of experience in numerous states. Trump has repeatedly claimed that his loss to Joe Biden in 2020 resulted from fraud, even though more than 60 court decisions and his own attorney general said that argument had no merit. And of course, Trump had no proof. Trump called the court ruling a tremendous loss and renewed his call for Congress to pass the Save America Act, which has made it through the House of Representatives, but not the Senate. There's only one reason to oppose cheating, Trump or somebody wrote on Truth Social Forum. Among other changes, the legislation would limit who is able to receive a mail ballot and impose a documentary proof of citizen requirement for registering to vote. So you have to bring your birth certificate to register to vote, apparently. If we want fair and secure elections, election day should mean exactly what it says, which is why this decision makes it even more imperative that Congress pass the Save America Act. RNC Chairman Joe Gruters said in a statement, the court heard arguments in March in a case from Mississippi pitting the state against Trump's Republican administration and the Republican and Libertarian parties. At issue was whether federal law sets a single election day that requires ballots to be both cast by voters and received by state officials. The Federal Appeals Court in New Orleans struck down a Mississippi law allowing ballots to be counted if they arrive within 5 business days of the election and are postmarked by Election Day. The outcome is a sigh of relief for a lot of election administrators, said Stephen Richer, a Republican and the former top election administrator in Arizona's Maricopa County, which includes Phoenix. Ruling in favor of the Republican National Committee would have created a whole host of administrative challenges for the affected states, said Richer, who is now a legal fellow at the Cato Institute. RNC officials did not immediately respond Monday to email and telephone requests for comment, blah, 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 because they're probably really pissed off. And the thing about this is this is just, like I said, the writing's on the wall in November. And this was just one of several things that Trump's administration is trying to do to alter these elections in his favor. Like we said, his new the new head of was it the Department of Homeland Security, but their new ICE, the head of ICE has said that they were going to put agents at voting stations.
Sounds like voter intimidation to me.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, I mean, it's you got citizen intimidation that was going on in Minnesota and Chicago and other parts of the country too.
Citizen murder too, but never mind.
Yeah, citizen murder. But yeah, this is if they were actually really serious about this, we'd have like an election period right? Like instead of having one day where like, because sometimes people, they can't take time off of work to go to vote because maybe their employer won't allow them, or they'll be financially penalized for that, for taking off work. So make it a federal holiday, make it like 2 or 3 days. And like some of these countries overseas do that too. If you really care about election integrity, give people, everybody who's registered to vote, the opportunity to vote like this. And then maybe you don't have to worry about mail-in ballots so much from a lot of people.
I know that in some countries, even on election day, military is confined to barracks.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, these are some Latin American countries. So yeah, confining the military to the barracks, not necessarily a bad idea.
You think that the leaders would use these military people to
intimidate
people
in some Latin American countries? Yeah, particularly when people were being thrown out of airplanes and helicopters. Yeah, I mean, just a thought there. Military dictators, generalissimos with 15 million badges all over them.
I mean, when you have as long as it's postmarked by election day, it's almost like I'm trying to think of something to compare that to, where it's like it's like as the kids say, I have I got receipts, right? And this is my receipt. I have the postmark. I have the letter. I'm sending it out on election day. It should get there. But
I'll tell you this. I used to live in Oregon, and I remember asking my landlord at the time, okay, where's the polling place and all that. He said, we have mail-in ballots here. Everything's by mail in Oregon. So are you just going to kick Oregon out of the union? Not to say that there aren't some folks who wouldn't mind that up there, but there's that possibility as well. And at this point, I mean, I'm all about mail-in ballots, although I've got my serious questions about the post office. That we've been talking about at this point. I mean, there's just so many different ways now that elections can be messed with. And if you've got a crooked administration with a crooked postal commission and a crooked postmaster, and all kinds of problems all over the postal system, that itself could create all kinds of issues for people. Again, I think somebody is suggesting, Yipper here, 9910, is saying make elections, more than a one-day event. Yeah, make it easier for people to get in there, and to get to places where that they can vote. I think I think it was Chuck was even saying, let's make Denny's and Waffle House early polling places. Not a bad
delicious
thing.
Polling places for sure. Well, John says, all my adult life and ID was enough. They just checked it if I was registered. Exactly. And the thing is, there's a difference between voter fraud and election fraud, right? Voter fraud, there's a very, very small, minute percentage of that actually happening, right? But people who want to control these elections would have you believe that it's just widespread, when in fact, you see more election fraud than you do voter fraud. And I think that's confusing in a way to control people, to make them think, oh yeah, well, you got to have a birth certificate and all this stuff to register to vote. It's like, it's that real? I mean, yeah, I understand in Chicago that, all the dead people voting and stuff. I've heard all those stories and stuff like that.
We've all heard them.
Yeah. And to what degree they're mostly, I mean, yeah, did it happen? Sure. But there's easier ways to weed that stuff out now. But election fraud is something totally different, and nobody in that camp seems to want to deal with that. But the voter fraud, that's the real issue, right?
Yeah.
So you put this in here. This is an interesting story here. As cops warn CEO bodyguards that Luigi Mangione fever could spark a class war. And they him on the flag there. That's cute. A law enforcement intelligence hub in New Jersey fretted that the growing class divide in the U.S. could drive a wave of lone wolf attacks on high-flying corporate executives, according to a report obtained by The Intercept. The New Jersey Regional Operations and Intelligence Center, one of the so-called fusion centers that serves as intelligence clearinghouses for cops, warned in a bulletin earlier this year that disaffected Americans were increasingly blaming society's ills on rich people and corporate bigwigs, for which they actually should do that. It's not your fault. It ain't my fault. The report specifically cited the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in December 2024, allegedly by Luigi Mangione, as an expression of anti-fat cat rhetoric. To the analysts at the New Jersey Fusion Center, Thompson's killing hinted at a larger trend. Public discourse increasingly attributes the challenges faced by the middle and lower classes to the actions and influence of wealthy corporate executives, the Fusion Center memo says. By warning corporate security outfits of the danger posed by average Americans who blame their problems on the actions of corporate executives, the report effectively dedicates public resources to securing a private system that has made the few extremely wealthy at the expense of the many. Michael German, a former FBI agent specializing in domestic terrorism and longtime critic of fusion centers, said that by warning CEOs of threats, the bulletin was effectively taking the side of the rich and powerful over ordinary people who are critical of inequality, a typical dynamic at fusion centers. The way it's written, the report seems to be putting forth the view that that is an extremist viewpoint rather than something that the state has some responsibility in correcting, German said. All the resources of the national network of fusion centers, which includes federal resources along with state and local resources, are devoted towards providing security information to private entities. The quarterly Executive Threat Watch Bulletin warned corporate bodyguards to switch up the daily routines of execs, limit information on public engagements, and remove bosses' personal information from the web. The report says bosses should remain vigilant of lone offenders with personal grievances. Following the fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson and the current political climate, there is a heightened threat environment surrounding corporate executives, the report says. Online glorification of the murder of Brian Thompson and calls for violence are still apparent and further create a risk for a lone offender attack. A spokesperson for New Jersey's Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness, the agency that oversees the Fusion Center, did not respond to a request for comment. Gee, I wonder why. Days after Thompson's killing in late 2024, Mangione was arrested and charged with the murder, allegedly motivated by injustices in the healthcare system. The then 26-year-old quickly became a cause célèbre for a wide array of supporters and a bête noire. Put all this French stuff in there. Where's the fancy music? Let's put that in. Of right-wing figures, including those at the Trump administration who branded him as a violent extremist. Mangione's legal team declined to comment on the Fusion Center report, but has in the past decried attempts to tie him to unrelated acts of violence. The report went on to cite a list of seemingly disparate incidents to highlight a possible surge in threats to the wealthy, including a satirical Christmas wish list that called for sabotaging CEOs, a handful of 4chan posts calling for violence against executives at Netflix and elsewhere, a far left forum, quotes, calling for a campaign against people tied to a mining project in Michigan, and an act of vandalism by pro-Palestinian activists at the home of a New York Times executive. Another incident that made the list was the federal case against the so-called Turtle Island Liberation Front, a group of left-wing activists arrested last year whose alleged bomb plot appears to have been largely driven by a member of their group who was a longtime paid FBI informant. How about that?
About that.
How about another French phrase? Agent provocateur. Sacre bleu. The problem with a lot of these Fusion Center reports is they take a handful of incidents not necessarily related to one another and use them to justify and amplify these threats without any kind of analysis, said German. Rather than actually looking at data, their performance is measured by the number of reports they produce. So we'll just go into this real quick. Fusion centers, which bring together state and federal law enforcement agencies to share intelligence on potential terror threats, rose to prominence in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. Of course, the Patriot Act had a lot to do with that. The centers operate under state authority, often with grants from federal agencies like the Department of Homeland Security. And this goes on. Again, we'll have this the full article on our Substack. That link will be in there. But to the point of how people are pushed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we always say, you know, well, we just need to vote in the right people. We vote in the right people, and then they'll of course do the bidding of our interests, right? But in reality, that's not the case. At least it hasn't been probably since 9/11, to be honest with you. A lot of these laws and stuff have been come into effect. Now, I don't want to, I'm not advocating murdering people. All right. Let me just put that right out there. But as Sam Kinison said, he said, I abhor violence, but I do know what turns Mr. Hand into Mr. Fist, right? When you push a person or group of people far enough, what are they going to do? Are they just going to sit there and take it? I mean, no, they're going to do something. And unfortunately, a lot of times violence is part of that, you know, a reaction to that. And if only we could avoid that kind of stuff, if maybe we took care of our own people and didn't allow these rich people to basically make all the rules for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it was Chuck was talking about it being this is, you know, don't exploit your workers. That's one part of it. Also, don't be in an industry that exploits the people, particularly the most vulnerable people out there, namely the sick.
Yeah. Yeah. If we if we had universal health care, we wouldn't have to worry about health insurance executives because there really wouldn't be any. Maybe a small amount.
But I mean, there are there is private health insurance in other countries that do have national health care services, but you pay the premium for it. But we don't even have the basics.
Right. And if we did have the basics, people would not be complaining about healthcare, and these CEOs would have one less thing to worry about like I said, there probably would still be private healthcare, people who want these Cadillac programs for themselves that, you know, because a lot of people like us, the middle class and poor people, are just saying basic healthcare at the very minimum, right?
Yeah, basic healthcare. But and I think it's also important. We're not even when we talk about poor people or middle class people. I'm even talking people who are upper middle class. There are people who have quite a few assets that can and may very well lose those assets very quickly due to an accident. Something our guest, Catherine Dietrich, was talking about last week when it comes to people with disabilities, is that is one category that any of us can enter into at any time. It takes one heart attack, one stroke, one sudden illness. It takes walking across the street and getting hit by a car. It takes a bad weather, a tree comes into your home and you get hit by it. And that people can, even with people with significant means, can be brought to their knees by a catastrophic illness or accident.
Yeah.
And that is how our economy works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's no excuse that people should go bankrupt over their health like that. In the
one trip down the stairs. Yeah, I love you up here, man.
Yeah.
Love your input. Thank you so much.
Yeah. In the richest country that ever existed, and people are begging for just basic health care.
I think people don't fully comprehend the wealth. And I'm not just talking about the money. I'm talking about the brain trust. I mean, all that this country, the resources that this country has and has had, and the way it's been squandered in appeasing the greedy. It's tragic. And one reason I'm not really celebrating this weekend.
Yeah, I don't celebrate propaganda either myself. So if your country can't even take care of your people on a basic level like that, then what is there really to celebrate?
That's why you and I are buds, Uncle Warren.
That's right. Stick it to the man, as Winston would say. The heat is on. You know, you remember that Glenn Frey song from the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack that they use in every freaking commercial now that you probably hear, and mostly car commercials. These deals are hot at your local Chevrolet dealer. The heat is boom, 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 boom on. Well, no, the heat is literally on, and somebody needs to go turn the thermostat down as part of our catch of the day here. And before Lainey gets rolling, I just wanted to show you guys from Zoom.earth. If you go to Zoom.earth, it has a lot of good weather information.
Yeah, this is really cool stuff.
So right now, we're looking at actual temperatures at the moment, right? So this is the United States, obviously. And the orange, if you look down here, it goes from purple to from some really cold to really hot. And we're getting into the 80s and 90s now. And a lot of people down south are like, 80s and 90s, that's like springtime. Well, it is until you figure in the wet bulb temperature. Do you want to explain a little bit what wet bulb means?
Yeah, what goes on with wet bulb is when you have the temperature and the humidity. And there's a lot more detail on this. The people who know a lot more that can actually explain. But what happens is that it's hot, and then you have humidity. And as the humidity intensifies, it becomes harder for the body to go into its natural cooling mechanism, which is causing a person to perspire. You get hot, you start to sweat. All right, what happens is the moisture starts leaving your body, and it evaporates, and this cools you down. But when you've got thick humidity all around you, that mechanism is stalled. And what can happen in these situations is that you're not able to cool yourself down efficiently. And at some point, those temperatures, that wet bulb temperature, can get so intense that even a healthy adult who is in the shade and hydrating and is relaxing in the shade and hydrating will still succumb to heat exhaustion or heat stroke and can die. Healthy people, at some point, the human body is going to break down under intense heat, particularly when there is absolutely there's no relief for that person. And what we are seeing in this country and elsewhere is that this is intensifying. And as Uncle Warren is showing you right now, just give him a look, Uncle Warren.
What's that?
I was going to say, if you just show him around, if you want to show him Europe, what's going on in Europe, you were showing me that earlier.
Yeah.
If you're able to do that. This is really cool. And I'm very grateful to Uncle Warren for pulling this out for us.
Now this is this is wet bulb right here. So right now, and for our foreign across the pond viewers, this is all Fahrenheit. Sorry. Just think of these temperatures as like maybe around.
This is America. We use freedom units.
Yeah, that's what the F stands for. It's not Fahrenheit, it's freedom. So we're talking about like right now 54. There's no heat stress now, but this is into the evening. But if you look right now, 63 degrees Fahrenheit, you're talking about maybe 15 degrees Celsius, and then you add humidity into the mix too, what makes it a little bit more unpleasant. Tomorrow is supposed to be extremely hot as well. I think highs. I've seen some temperatures in the United States, so especially on the East Coast, getting into the triple digits tomorrow. So
you were showing me, I think, Spain earlier. I mean, it's just ridiculous what's going on there. And to keep in mind that Europe does not have air conditioning the way we do. I know that when folks were over here for the football, Europeans were commenting about our air conditioning here. But a lot of these countries, they're not set up for this. And in some cases, they don't even have central heating, and so their homes have been structured to hold heat inside.
Right.
And so that's become an enormous problem in Europe. I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were talking about in France, the hospitals are at a breaking point with people either dying outright or collapsing because of the heat.
Yeah. So yeah, you could see here, Spain, 107 degrees, 106 in Seville, comparable to the Sahara Desert in Africa here. And yeah, you can see these temperatures here in France, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. But again, you have to figure in the humidity too. So Lainey, please take it away.
All right. So, yeah, this has been making the news, and I wanted to talk about it this week because it's also a time, I think, for all of us to be looking out for each other. We're all about community resilience here. And I mean, I pulled this out here. This is from USA Today. And sometimes I like to pull in the most bland, white bread news sources for us, because I want to say this is not a bunch of radical leftists talking here. And here we go. Blockbuster. This is not normal heat at all that we are beginning to see. And or we're not beginning to see, that we're seeing this weekend. And we're going to be, and remember, we're just into July right now. We're not talking about those August temperatures. I mean, even in September and October, we can see, depending on where you are, you can start seeing these super hot temperatures. But right now, we're seeing these temperatures. They are straining. It's a strain for people. And again, yes, if you are pregnant, if you are overweight or obese, if you are elderly, if you have a chronic condition or a heart condition or any kind of whatever. Autoimmune condition, the heat can affect you more seriously. But we're talking that these temperatures are dangerous for everybody at this point. And, we go to let's have more air conditioning. But air conditioning itself could be contributing to the problem because of its use of energy, contributing to emissions and global warming. Some people have pointed out that we should have seen this happening a long time ago and gone over how we construct our homes, because right now our homes, Europe is one thing because a lot of those homes were built a long time ago. But in the US, we might have, done a little bit more to make our homes not sieves that that don't regulate temperature appropriately and that rely on HVAC units to do that for us. And we haven't done that, and now we're reaping the consequences. And we had a case, if you want to bring this up, Uncle Warren, recently in Europe, there was it's supposed to be a panel on global warming, and it was about heat adaptation. And they had to cancel it because it was so bad in London, of all places. And keep in mind, the UK is an island, but they had to cancel it because the heat was so extreme.
Just to break in just a second, to people who don't understand what the weather's like in Europe during the summertime. Yeah, it gets warm, it gets summer, but a lot of times it's kind of like Seattle. Right. You get a lot of rain, you get a lot of cloud cover and whatnot, and that kind of diffuses the heat a good bit. But in this case, it's even with that, you're seeing less moisture and you're seeing more heat, as you were talking about.
And Poppy actually brings up and this is great. Thank you. You've provided the segue here, Poppy. Nighttime temperatures are even more extreme relative to average. No recovery period for humans and all creatures and plants. That is absolutely critical, because a lot of times when we've had heat in the summertime, the nifty thing about it is it gets dark. The sun goes down. The sun goes away. It gets cooler, so the body has time to recover. In fact, it used to be in Chicago, what people would do, people did not have air conditioning in many cases. They would, at night, when it was cool, they would open up all the windows in the house, get all that cool air in, and then first thing in the morning, they would shut all the windows. And that would keep some cool air in the house during the time where it's going to be hot. And then they would just do the same thing. And it would give you time to recuperate. Unfortunately, we're seeing these things called heat domes where that humidity is not going away. Now, I'm going to explain a few things here from my own experiences. I'm going to first go back to when I was living in Oregon. And where I was living in Oregon, there was no humidity. There was just none. So during the day, it might get up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or freedom units outside, but there was no humidity. However, as soon as the sun went down, the temperature would drop sometimes even into the high 50s.
Yeah, like the desert, kind of like desert.
Mid-60s. Yeah. And it was so incredibly comfortable. And so even if you didn't have air conditioning, if you stayed inside in the shade, kept yourself hydrated, at night everything would be fine and you were happy as a clam. But when you don't have that relief, when you have high humidity that stays around, and you don't get rid of that heat, you don't get that you don't have that mechanism that allows you to recover. Your body temperature goes down. Nature, animals, all end up impacted by that.
Let me quickly kind of explain what the heat dome thing is too.
Yes,
a lot
please.
of times it starts in the Gulf of Mexico, right? The Gulf of Mexico is, it can happen in the Pacific or in the Atlantic, but a lot of times it happens in the Gulf of Mexico because the water gets so hot down there. That's why you have a lot of hurricanes that come through there that feed on that hot, moist energy. And then when the dome basically comes up into the United States and mostly into like the Midwest and most of the East there too, you still have your dry weather in the West, just kind of like you have the cold domes that come down from Canada during the winter and exposes a lot of the North and Northeast and even parts of the South to that extreme cold that's coming down from there. So please continue. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. That's very helpful because back in 1995, city of Chicago had a major heat emergency. And we had the heat dome and it did not go away. It was a very hot summer all the way around, but there was a particular 2-week period where there was no relief at all. So nighttime temperatures were well into the 90s. I can't even begin to tell you what it was inside apartments. I had an apartment at the time that did not have air conditioning. I remember I would go and lie in a cool tub of water just to cool my body down. I would take sheets and towels or whatnot, and I would soak them. I would put them over myself, and then I would position myself in front of the window with the fan. And I would let the cold, they would draw in some cool air, and that's how I was keeping myself cooled down. We had over 700, I want to say, official deaths during that time due to heat. They said, people have talked about at Cook County Hospital that there were refrigerated trucks outside to deal with the bodies. People were suffering from heat exhaustion because the city was simply not prepared for that level of heat. We're on the lake, and it was treated primarily. High heat, we didn't really worry that much about it. Air conditioning was a luxury. A lot of buildings, like my building, didn't allow it because it had old electricity. You had to have a doctor's note to get an air conditioning unit, and I didn't need one. So I didn't have it, and I come to regret that. It was a pretty miserable time. But it was a devastating thing for the city of Chicago. One good thing that emerged from that, though, is the city developed a heat emergency plan. And they did things like open up cooling centers. They started to allow people on those on very hot days could bring cold beverages on buses and trains. Normally you weren't allowed any beverages on buses or trains. That changed. They allowed that to happen. They also, as the city buses began to install air conditioning, we now have a mobile cooling center program in Chicago. On those hot days, they take the city buses. The bus drivers come out, drive the buses, and park them different places. And vulnerable people can get on those buses. There are volunteers there with cold drinks, and they can sit on an air-conditioned bus for 2 hours. and lets them get their core body temperature down. And so we have an absolute heat emergency plan in the city because of that event, because of so many people just dying. Now, there were a lot of other people who were not counted in that 700 people who already had pre-existing conditions who did die. Their official death was not heat stroke, but they died anyways. And I think that a lot of people have never been accounted for. One of those was my father. My father, who was just days away from his 54th birthday. He had a heart condition, but it was a heart condition that you could have lived, it was one of those things, yes, you could drop dead any time, but you could also live 20, 30 years with it. And he was seeing his doctor, living a good life and all that. But that summer proved to be just too much for him. And I remember seeing him, he had just lost a little bit more energy. And he was a man, he wanted to play golf. He wanted to be going out and doing things. He was an active man. And I remember he had been at a concert at Poplar Creek, which was an outdoor music venue, one night. My stepmom said she saw him sweating horribly. And I hate to say this, but one day, a couple days later, he and I went out to lunch together. We had our meal. He asked me if I wanted dessert and dropped dead. So this was a very profound thing for me. Obviously, very traumatic, very upsetting to watch my father die that way. But it's also, for me, been very important to let people know about the dangers of heat, and that, again, this sort of heat damage that we're seeing now can happen to young, healthy, strong people who do not have heart conditions or any other kind of conditions. And you need to be aware of that. It's not just the sick or the disabled, or the very old or the pregnant. It's anybody can be impacted by this. The other thing I want to point out about this is that this is something where friends, family, community members have to take action on behalf of each other. Here's why. Any kind of a temperature-related emergency can inhibit an affected person's judgment. If a person has hypothermia, or heat, which is they're too cold, or a heat exhaustion, heat stress, heat exhaustion, or heat stroke, their judgment is seriously impaired. That people who have hypothermia will strip naked outdoors in freezing cold weather because their body will try and, as a last ditch effort, will spike its temperature just to try and keep itself warm, and they will die that way. So it requires other people to look out for each other. And one of the studies that came out of that Chicago heat emergency, what was interesting is that the people who died were people who lived alone. There was a racial component to it as well. There were cultural issues involved, but it was the people who had no social networks, where people did not have friends, family checking in on them, whereas and there was mostly men, it was mostly older men, and who lived alone and did not have anybody checking on them. And again, if a person is overheated, their judgment is messed up. And they will say, oh, I feel fine. No, their judgment is messed up. So we're going to, what I want to move into here is heatwave preparedness. This is from a site called Here Comes the Apocalypse. Here Comes the Apocalypse is a great educational organization that takes a community approach to preparedness for any kind of natural or human-created disaster. In fact, I'm working to get the proprietress of this organization on our show as a guest. We're working on it. But I want people to know about this. You can click the link in there. Fair warning, there is an affiliate program. If you end up buying anything from them, they have a lot of free content, but if you buy something from them, we'll get a slight, we'll get a slight commission on that. But what I like about this organization is they are very practical, but they're not right-wing survivalists. They believe in community preparation. And so what they say, yeah, absolutely, Bobby, that's absolutely the case. But they do recommend a heat wave preparedness kit. Things like it would be things to make sure you have water, that you have equipment needed to handle a power outage. And power outages do happen a lot in heat wave conditions, but you want that information. If you're going outdoors, make sure you are carrying supplies with you. Carry water, sunscreen, and a hat. the things that you need to keep yourself as cool and protected as possible. Insulate your house. And this is something where, if some areas do offer, if you're a homeowner, do offer incentives for doing this sort of thing. You may have to check around a little bit with your area energy companies. Your energy suppliers may have information on that for you, but that's a good thing to find out about. If you are a renter, again, maybe talk to your landlord about it, and say, hey, there's an option here perhaps for making this place a little bit more weatherproof. Keep the thermostat set at 78 Fahrenheit or freedom units to keep cool without overburdening the power grid. Wear loose fitting clothes, and they should be light colored if possible. Stay hydrated. And during those peak temps, which are usually 10 to 2,
the heat of the day, as
they call it, you need to limit that outdoor activity. And you just, stay inside. Again, there are places like libraries where you are welcome to be in there. If you're at if there's a university in your area, they may have areas that are open to the public. You can go and sit in there. You can also check with your local government to find out where there are cooling centers in your area. Do you have a church that you belong to? Do you have air conditioning? Talk to your clergy or the vestry to find out if they're willing to open it up to members of the community. Also, your pets, keep them indoors and make sure they have plenty of water. Change that water frequently. I'll even put ice cubes in my pet's water sometimes, and they like that very much. Also, again, you need to be checking on your neighbors. And again, this is in your family members, and you need to be calling, and you need to organize your siblings, your cousins, your friends to be calling people. Are you okay? And that may mean and you need to talk to the person on the phone because you need to hear it in their voice. Person can type out, "Oh, I'm just fine." But you can hear if somebody's in distress typically. So be doing that, because this is where we really do have to look out after each other. So in any case, this is a really good resource, this page for you, to give you ideas. But this is, again, where you need to bring this to your community. Share it on social media if you don't have a group that you're a part of. That's really critical. Also, yeah, rechargeable personal fan. Fans are great. And the rechargeable ones, even if the power goes out, can continue to work. And again, my old trick of just wetting down a sheet or something like that, putting it over myself and then letting the fan blow on me, that really saved me that particular summer. And it's very, very useful. But you got to find ways to stay cool. This is a bigger problem than us individuals or even our individual community. This is something that's affecting the entire globe right now. And I think we need to learn to adapt to it. Unfortunately, that meeting in London had to be canceled because it got too hot.
Yeah, Earth temperatures are getting higher, whether it's due to human means or whether it's just the natural thing that the Earth does. And I'd also like to remind people who have kids and pets: do not leave them in a hot car. I don't care if you're just running. I'm just going to the ATM. It'll be like 5 seconds. No. Just assume that 1 second is way too long to keep these pets in there. Don't crack the windows. Just make plans not if you can, not to bring your children or pets with you on a hot day if you have to go run errands or something, because I'm seeing all these stories about these kids and pets. I see it every year of them just dying in these hot cars, and it's just out of pure stupidity that people are allowing these things to happen. You can't stress that enough.
Well, and I would agree with you, but the other thing that I would say, I was reading a story just yesterday where there was a group of like 4 or 5 kids that were in the car, and the parent had the air conditioning on, but one of the kids hit the button, because kids will do that.
Yeah.
And so it was off, and then fortunately bystanders saw the window was cracked. I don't know why they cracked the window and had the air conditioning, but never mind that. This person just wasn't thinking through it. And I get it that some parents are very isolated and they just can't, they don't have the help that they need. But it's better just to get the kids out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
if
just
you
take
have a
it
little,
with you
if you have a little
can.
carrier for you have a carrier or a muzzle or whatever for the animal, whatever you need to do, but keep them out and with you. They should be under your supervision at all times and not in that car.
I tell you, I've seen in stores, probably like little dollar stores and stuff, they have the water bottles with the fans on them. So when you
Oh yeah,
spritz, you do the spritz, it'll give you like that mist, and then the fan is going too
yeah,
while you're
and they
spritzing it.
work.
So,
They
you know,
absolutely work. I used to bring them to music festivals. There's actually a rooftop bar here in Bentonville where they have misting fans. And so it's
yeah,
on the top of the roof, and you would think it would be really hot, but they get the misting fans. These are very expensive little things because the mist is just so fine, but it works.
yeah.
It absolutely works.
You can actually make one of those misting things too. All you have to do is just get some PVC pipe, put it together, hook it to a hose and put little bitty tiny holes in there, and it'll spritz out the thing. But that's kind of an extreme thing. But yeah, like music festivals and stuff, you'd see like the mist tents, you go in
Yeah.
there and it's just all nice and misty. It's out of the sun, and it's just ooh. A lot of people would just stay in there and not go to the music show on a really hot day. Because I went to Bonnaroo in Tennessee, the second one they had. I can't remember what year that was, but oh, good Lord, it was so hot. I ended up getting like second degree sunburn on the top of my feet. Don't wear sandals. Probably you want to wear some shoes when it's hot outside too, unless you want to get your feet scalded. Just a word of advice. And then I did have heat exhaustion one time because when I was a kid, actually. So
Yeah.
you're like you said, you don't have to be older.
Yeah.
I was riding my bike in the Mississippi, the South Mississippi summertime, hot as hell. But that's what you do. You get outside and go do stuff. I'm riding my bike, and then the next thing I know, I wake up and I'm in bed, and my aunt and my sister are over me, and I have like these little scratches on me. I'm like, what the hell happened? I have no idea what happened between the time I was riding my bike and how I got in that bed. So that's how and like I said, little kid, it can still affect your memory. It can affect your judgment and all that stuff. So just be careful out there and drink lots and lots of water, to maybe make sure you get your salt content balanced too.
Yeah, they have, the oral rehydration, formulas out there that you can do. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to be doing the whole water talk thing where you're basically throwing off your electrolytes.
Right.
But there
Yeah.
are rehydration solutions that you can use, and you can talk to your doctor or medical professional about how to best use
Definitely.
those, because you don't want to overdo those either. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It can happen under any kind of circumstance, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it. And the sooner we start to adapt to these changes, the better it's going to be for all of us.
Well, look at that. You got a neighbor there, pretty much.
Oh, really? Okay.
She's Poppy's in Missouri.
Okay.
As a Southerners, like we don't say Missouri down there. We say Missouri, like we're back in the Civil War or something. Or Gone with the Wind, or like talking like I do declare. But yeah, that your neck of the woods down there. I grew up in South Mississippi. I lived in and worked in North Mississippi for a long time too, and it's just like, yeah, you would see everybody. But that was a good thing about the South, was a lot of people would kind of look out for each other, right? It was a little more communal when it comes to like health issues and stuff like that, and people would check on the older folks and whatnot. And yeah, the younger people complain that Gen X always talks about drinking out of hoses. Why do you think we drank out of hoses? It was so damn hot.
And our parents wanted us out of the house. I mean, it's like, get out of the house. They didn't want to see us. All this helicopter parenting is so strange to me, given the fact that we were effectively feral.
Yeah, I know, right? Like Shaka from Land of the Lost. Just get out of the house. Don't come back till the sun goes down. All right. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so everybody take care of each other and stay hydrated, as our buddy Chuck likes to say. So let's move on. We're going to go to cool ourselves off in the recurring tide a water themed kind of show, it seems like a nice thing when it comes to summertime stuff. But this is some interesting stuff right here. We tend to subscribe to things and then forget about them, right? Isn't that crazy? And then you're like, well, where's all my money going?
Yeah.
Well, I have too many subscriptions, and you may too. Here's why that might be a security issue. Yes. In the days here of data phishing and whatnot, yes, you have to be very careful. We have subscriptions to everything these days: streaming services, podcasts, online games, food delivery, fitness apps, and even products like coffee beans and shaving stuff. You get your blade of the month kind of thing. And nearly every company and creative professional has a newsletter or marketing listserv too, with tools like autocomplete and shop pay. It's easier than ever to sign up and subscribe. I've fallen prey to this myself. That's the author of this article. Not me. I've never done that. I'm very frugal. The consequence, my inbox gets clogged with near endless email newsletters, and the low-cost services start adding up, becoming a major monthly expense. There's a bigger, more existential threat too. Every time you subscribe to something, you're handing over your data, your name and email, as well as other identifying information such as your address and credit card info. So today we're exploring how that data can be used against you and what you can do to minimize the risks associated with subscriptions. So signing up for a subscription involves handing over sensitive identifying information to an outside party. Every online platform, website, or company database, regardless of size, is vulnerable to malicious actors and data leaks. In other words, every site that collects your information is another way to be targeted. Cyber criminals can use your data in many harmful ways, from building personalized scams to stealing your identity. Popular websites aren't always safer than small websites. Their large databases make them more appealing to malicious actors, and as a result, often more dangerous, especially if they lack proper security measures. So another threat is the prevalence of scam emails pretending to come from real people or companies. These scams use the reputation of those real people or companies to trick you into revealing your personal information, a practice known as phishing with a PH right there, like fat, PHAT, because that was the thing for a while. They may try to convince you to make purchases or send money, and they're a lot more likely to succeed if you don't remember if you're subscribed to the company or person they claim to be. The threat doesn't always come from outsiders, though. The owners of newsletters and subscription services can sell your data to data brokers, people finder sites, scammers, or other malicious actors. They may also be scammers themselves, impersonating real businesses or creating wholly false businesses to trick you into giving them your information or money. So how to reduce these risks? Reducing the risk associated with your subscriptions means reducing the number of subscriptions and taking control over where your data can be found online. So they recommend using a 4-step process. 1, eliminate unnecessary subscriptions, obviously. Every 3 months, they let newsletters and promotional emails in the inbox pile up before systematically unsubscribing from the lists of companies and people they no longer want to interact with. And they don't stop there. They also unsubscribe from newsletters and theoretically want to keep aspirational newsletters about improving fitness, but haven't opened in months. This manual unsubscribe approach works, but you can speed things up by using Gmail's built-in subscription management tools, assuming you're using Gmail for your email. For paid subscriptions, you can manually review your bank and credit card statements, then cancel the subscriptions in your banking app or on the subscription sites. Alternatively, you can use a paid service such as Rocket Money to quickly find and eliminate old subscriptions. Rocket Money also offers great budgeting tools, so you can use this as an opportunity to potentially improve your financial life in other ways. If you have a habit of casually subscribing to low-level support tiers for artists via third-party services such as Patreon, you'll notice that payments from those sites are always listed by the site's name rather than the artist's name. This makes it essential to go through your Patreon account to ensure you're only deleting subscriptions you want to cancel. Delete old accounts. Some sites require you to delete your account to cancel your subscription. Most sites, however, keep your account open long after your subscription ends, meaning your data may still be at risk. So to eliminate that risk, you'll need to delete your old accounts altogether. If you're manually ending your subscriptions, deleting your accounts often only requires 1 or 2 additional steps while you're visiting each site. If you're using something like Rocket Money to end subscriptions, or you want to delete unused accounts not connected to the subscriptions, you can use McAfee's online account cleanup tool. There's various tools you can use to do this kind of stuff. You can request data removal. You often don't need to create an account to sign up for a newsletter, but unsubscribing doesn't guarantee the deletion of your data. Many email marketing tools keep permanent lists or of inactive or unsubscribed users. This creates the potential for your email address and any other details associated with your subscription to be sold or misused by third parties long after you've canceled. So data removal services typically focus on removing your information from data brokers and people finder sites, but some tools like Bitdefender's digital footprint cleanup software can also send data removal requests to email lists. Alternatively, you can use a data removal request template to manually request erasure of your subscriber data. Just make sure you customize each request. And then be careful about what you subscribe to going forward. Eliminating your subscriptions won't safeguard your data unless you change your subscription habits. They recommend taking the following steps: evaluate how much you want it, check the URL for SSL encryptions or secure sockets layer. This is the most basic measure of website security. A lot of times you may click on a website and this message may pop up on your browser that says this site is not secured. You may want to be very careful of those sites. It doesn't necessarily mean it's shady. It just doesn't have the extra security levels. And of course, and research the website. Research what you're trying to do when it comes to these subscriptions like that. Yeah, and I know a lot of people who are like, they're subscribed to so many things they don't even know what they're subscribed to.
Yeah, and it's very easy, and you're surprised at this. You might also want to do this on Facebook. You can go into security, and you go into apps, and you can see what apps that you have connected to your account. And you may want to get rid of those, because also you don't know if one of these, let's say it's a smaller company, it goes out of business, but you've still got that data connection to whatever has bought the assets of that company. And they can use all that to do all kinds of stuff. So, we think it's convenient to have all this stuff, but maybe it isn't.
Right. And just be very careful. I know in a lot of web browsers too, that you'll have autofill that has all your credit card and information stuff. That's convenient if you want to purchase something from a site that you haven't purchased from before. But again, like they say, research before you do, unless it's something like that's totally established. And even then, you still want to be careful with that kind of stuff too. So let's move on to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau as they revise complaint portal after credit reporting surge. What is this about there?
Oh, yeah.
The CFPB said Wednesday, June 24th, that it has made several changes to improve its consumer complaint process, which has been made less effective by a growing number of users who abuse the process. The regulator has developed a standardized process for credit reporting agencies, CRAs, to follow when addressing complaints, enhanced identity protections, align the complaint process to statutory obligations, focus resources on complaints that warrant a substantive response, educated consumers about how to address errors in credit reports, and increase the efficiency of the complaint process, it said in a press release. One of the issues these changes are designed to address is abuse of the complaint process. This issue is reflected in more than 3,700% in consumer reporting complaint volume since between 2019 and 2025. During that time, the number of such complaints leapt from 150,000 per year to 5 million per year, according to the release. The increase is driven by many, sometimes overlapping factors: credit repair organizations and credit clinics misusing the Bureau's complaint process as a tool for their business, social media influencers with questionable expertise encouraging followers to submit complaints, adoption of new technologies like AI tools that may act as an individual's agent, and the emergence of new businesses that seek to boost credit scores by disputing accurate information on consumers' reports, CFPB said in the release. The changes made by the CFPB are meant to ensure CRA's response rates are appropriately high, remind consumers that they should exhaust their dispute rights with the CRA before coming to the Bureau, and protect the complaint system from users who abuse the system. The CFPB said in March that 88% of all complaints filed in 2025 were tied to credit or consumer reporting. The National Consumer Law Center, a consumer advocacy group, said in January that the number of complaints submitted to the CFPB about credit reporting reflect genuine issues, and that changes to the agency's complaint system could reduce the number of complaints filed. Those numbers reflect the massive issues caused by mistakes and other problems that people have with their credit report, the NCLC said at the time in a press release.
Here's the thing. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, we've been reporting on them for a while. It's a game of political football. A lot of people resent the fact, people in government resent the fact that it even exists. And a lot of people in finance and whatnot, they resent that it even exists. And it's right now, again, they're trying to dismantle it at this point. So something that is going to be putting the screws to consumers rather than consumer reporting agencies that don't always do their job. It makes sense for what they're trying to do within the organization, which is to make it less useful for consumers. Is it true that there are scammers out there who will try to get people to do unethical, illegal, or impossible things to clean up their credit? Absolutely. Curiously enough, during the first Trump administration, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was going after those scammy credit repair services. Now it just seems to be saying, "Hey, we're just going to change our own policy to make it harder for people to challenge stuff." And yeah, people should absolutely be going to original creditors, to the credit reporting bureaus first before going to a higher agency. But there are serious problems with the credit reporting system in this country, not the least of which is that there are, 3 major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, all of whom have different information, and sometimes it contradicts. That information is contradicted, and you have to go in, if you want to change that, you have to go in and challenge with each individual credit reporting bureau. But there are also consumer reporting agencies that people are unaware of. For example, there are agencies that look at the history of a car. And they will look at the history of a car, and the car, they can get that information to use in insurance decisions. And that's something people are not even aware of. And it's not as easy to get those reports. Or you're talking about a landlord a housing credit check or a background check, and getting the information from them. And that's not always easy to do because it's looking at different things, and it's not one of the big 3, and people aren't aware of it until they get turned down for a place to live. So we have this very diffuse credit reporting system or background reporting system. Technically, the consumer has protections, but the consumer is not always that well equipped or knowledgeable about their options, and they may not even be aware when they go to apply for something. They may think, "Well, yeah, I just checked my credit; it was fine." Well, they checked one report. They didn't check the rest of it, so they don't know what report that individual or that agency or that business is going to be pulling on them. And they don't have, and then you don't necessarily even have a defense. Okay, if the information is wrong, that business, individual, or organization is required to let you know this, but that doesn't mean they're going to hold the apartment for you,
right,
or issue the loan, or offer you the job. So this is basically, I think they are trying to the feds are trying to dismantle this agency, and they're just going to make it less and less useful.
Yeah, they definitely been trying to neuter it. I think it was started under the Obama administration with Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, and it was one of the concessions that was made. I mean, they should have been putting all all those banksters in jail, but no such luck. But they said, well, we'll start an agency, a regulatory agency. And well, okay, Yipper, okay, I want to talk to you about this. Okay, so let me, I think you've got a good point here, and I would love to talk with you about this, because here's the thing. Basically, there was a time when they had these things called credit reports, where basically, first of all, if you wanted to apply for credit, you might have to have references from previous creditors. You have to go to the bank and all that. And that happened. And then you had the credit reporting agencies, and they sprung up. They are a third party agency and in order for them to have information about you, businesses and organizations that you have done business with have to pay for a subscription with that credit reporting agency. So their client is really the businesses, is creditors. Their clients are creditors, not consumers. And I think they don't exist for your protection. They exist for the protection of their clients or potential clients. So these organizations, they give them the information. And so if you were trying to buy a house or a car or get insurance or a job, anybody could look at that credit report, and they would have your information and where you'd been doing your business and how much debt you had and that sort of thing. However, one thing that people began to notice is that discrimination based on things that you're not supposed to discriminate on, race, ethnicity, sex, could easily continue to happen. A person could say, yeah, but I'm looking at this credit report here, and even if it didn't have the person's name on it, they might be able to tell by location or the type of business. They could infer things about the individual, and then they could discriminate. So the idea behind the credit score was everybody just gets a 3-digit score, and it doesn't have any information about where you've been shopping, where you've been living, any of that information. It just has the number, and they're going to base your credit worthiness or your worthiness for insurance or your worthiness for a job on this 3-digit score. It was supposed to help prevent discrimination, but instead it has complicated things for people who might have had to file bankruptcy because of medical debt. Or because they had a business that went bust, or because they lost everything in a divorce, or something bad happened to them. It could be that you have a person, they're not necessarily the best with credit cards, but they've never lost their home. They've always been good workers. They may have some other issues, but it's not kept them from being otherwise good citizens or good employees. And so, but it's become very cheap. It's a cheap and easy way to, again, just discriminate against people en masse and say, hey, I haven't done anything wrong. I would like to see some changes made in the way we do this. But I mean, the idea at one point was that it was supposed to prevent discrimination, but now it's become something entirely different. As Chuck says, you are the product.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost becoming like, a lot of these people will complain about China's social credit scores. It's like, it's kind of what we're having here. It's basically, it's not a social credit score, but it kind of is in a way. So yeah, it's definitely made things a hell of a lot more complicated than it should be, for sure. Much like AI-backed faked retailers. That's right. Fake stores. You've heard
this is getting crazy. This is getting crazy.
Yeah. So as AI-backed fake retailers pollute the internet, what are the solutions? Fraudulent business practices and the scam artists behind them may be nothing new in the world of commerce, but a new trend brought about by the advance of technology is AI-created fake retailers and brands are proliferating across the web and social media, often leveraging consumers' empathy and emotion to rope unsuspecting victims into a purchase. Facebook and other similar social media platforms are rife with these sort of fake retail operations, with Meta's own late 2024 data suggesting that 10% of its total revenue was derived from scam ads, and Wall Street Journal data suggesting as of mid-2025 that 70% of new ads on Meta platforms either promoted scams, poor quality products, or illicit goods, per Fox 59.
Wall Street Journal and Fox are saying this, folks.
The unholy alliance there. In a more recent report issued by Forbes contributor Catherine Erdley, the latest iteration of dishonest retail practices spreading across the internet are so-called ghost stores, or e-com businesses, which use AI-created imagery, reviews, testimonials, and websites to misrepresent themselves as small businesses, often local. Erdley has set the scene here. Ready to focus on their new roles as grandparents, a couple shared a heartfelt message with customers as they closed their boutique doors with one final sale. It's with heavy heart that we share this message with you. After years of love and care poured into this little shop, it's time for us to close. At first glance, everything looks genuine, the emotional farewell, the photo of the owners, but on second glance, things don't add up. Despite the title referencing a local town, the shipping details note that orders are dispatched from their warehouse in Central Asia. A closer look at the photo suggests the smoothness and uniformity of an AI-generated image, she added. Fake retail scams powered by AI and social media, a problem beyond enforcement. So retailers and shoppers are involved in a trust recession. Yeah, no kidding. Data from Bazaar Voice indicates that around 97% of shoppers now check multiple sources before purchasing, with 60% needing between 2 to 3 sources before being satisfied, 37% requiring 4 or more. Prevalent or pervasive may be too weak of words to describe the scale. Chris Emmons of Quick Check suggested that such scams are part of the world we live in now. They're absolutely everywhere. Further, the technological environment, a combination of easy and free AI tools, and some shoppers lacking advanced experience in detecting the use thereof, leads to exacerbation of these schemes and their impacts. It's just so darn easy and cheap to do these things. They now have AI on their side, which means that a website can go up within an hour, Emmons said. Enforcement is difficult, if it's possible at all. Curtailing ghost stores or AI-driven retail scams via legal means may be off the table, according to Emmons, who suggests that enforcement is similar to playing a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. Yeah, exactly. The scale is just too large. You have problems with jurisdiction because so many of these stores are based in China or elsewhere, and there are all sorts of issues like that as well. This sort of disingenuous play on empathy or other emotions to drum up sales is a common tactic across the board, as ABC News reported. ABC News has identified dozens of videos on platforms like YouTube and TikTok where retailers used AI to generate videos showing fake craftspeople making their products. Expert analysis paired with online detection tools confirmed they were created with AI technology, and their websites were linked to generic holding companies or companies overseas, the outlet wrote. Many of the videos prey on customers' emotions by showing interactions that try to create sympathy by showing creators being picked on in public, ABC News added. So there are these, I figured this was going to be the next step in the AI quote unquote revolution, where you're going to see these fake stores pop up. And by the time you figure it out, you and your money and yourself are soon parted and never to be seen again.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I started watching this with these fake going out of business sales. And that's an old trick. I remember going to London once, and there was a shop on one of the high streets there. Going out of business. They had disco lights going and sirens and people standing out front and trying to sell. And I bought a few things. 3 years later, I go back to London. Guess what was still going out of business and having a closed sale?
They do that in New York too. I've seen,
they do it all the time.
The electronic stores and stuff. They say going out of business, and you come in the next week, going out of business. 2 months later, going out of business. And
then this is what they were doing. It's a lot easier to do it online because they don't have a geographic location for you to check. But what I've been seeing lately, and this is what's really disturbed me, and the AI, by the way, the AI video is really good. But you basically will see a person making some kind of craft with their hands. It is often a person of color. And I remember seeing one that said, "Where are all my white women at who want to support my book cover business," or whatever it was. And it was a Black woman showing how she was making these crafts. And are you willing to support me on this? Or they'll show a child, again, oftentimes a child of color, who will say, people are making fun of my child's stuffed animal business. Will you support him or watch this video for 30 seconds to help him in the algorithm? And it's so cynical. And it's designed to, to appeal to people who are scrolling, who want to do the right thing. And it's really disturbing. And you're not buying an artisan product. You're buying something that's coming out of a factory. This is AI slop, and you're getting a factory slop product if you get the product at all. And now they have your information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 1-2 punch right there. So
yeah.
Yes. So stay diligent, and and you couple that with high prices and stuff like that. People are being more and more frugal because they have to be. Because of the economy. And so these kind of things, you have to especially be aware of these scams like that. They're trying to take your money.
What really bothers me is that Meta is making so much money off of this, is doing nothing about it.
Oh, no,
my family, we were a publisher. We had a magazine business for decades. And I remember back in the day, if we had all kinds of advertising, we had classified ads, and we had print, photograph ads, display ads. And if a merchant put out an ad and didn't fulfill their end of the bargain and wasn't doing the right thing, we would hear from our readers about that ad, and our sales reps would go after that advertiser.
Mm.
Yeah. As Chuck says, they're not doing their cash in the checks. Yeah. But our magazine would go after that advertiser and say, "Hey, you haven't been fulfilling the orders. What's going on here?" Sometimes they were small companies, they were backlogged. But in other cases, okay, we're going to force you to do this, and we're not going to accept your advertising. We're not going to take your money if you are not fulfilling your commitment to our readers. And that was there. It was very much a present thing. It was a thing that people regularly did in media businesses. And that's gone by the wayside because there's no trust anymore between these businesses. We accepted these free social media platforms and all that they provided us with, but at what cost? Now we don't trust anybody.
Freedom ain't free. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I mean, yeah, it's the onus is on these platforms that are doing this advertising too, but also we at the same time, we have to stay diligent.
We do. We absolutely do. Yeah.
So let's head overseas. Our man of war stings, of course, all the stuff that's going on over there. We go to Lebanon right now as the Pentagon prepares to deploy boots on the ground in Lebanon. How about that, huh?
Imagine that.
That's
that ground looks mighty tore up.
Yeah, that they got blowed up. Yeah,
you can't go barefoot in that.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't unless you want to step on something that blow you up. U.S. military is planning to deploy troops on the ground in Lebanon in order to aid Hezbollah disarmament efforts and oversee the new agreement signed illegally between Beirut and Tel Aviv. The Washington Post reported yesterday the U.S. military will have a direct role in monitoring actions by both the Lebanese army and the Israeli army. A U.S. official is quoted as saying, U.S. forces will deploy troops on the ground in both countries, the source added. We call balls and strikes, if you will, so our political leadership can apply whatever pressure needs to be applied on either side to get them to hold up their end. Head of U.S. Central Command Brad Cooper is not taking a direct role in overseeing either side, but officials with CENTCOM would report any violations to the Trump administration, which would then engage, the report went on to say. The report came as Nabi Berri, Lebanese parliament speaker and head of Hezbollah ally, the Amal movement, reportedly doubled down on recent comments rejecting the new Beirut-Tel Aviv deal brokered by Washington, signed in direct violations of Lebanese laws. According to Lebanese political sources cited by El Nashra, Barry is working to build a broad cross-sectarian political front to oppose the Lebanon-Israel Framework Agreement. The speaker had hinted towards such efforts in an interview with Al Akbar newspaper on Monday. The U.S.-Lebanon-Israel deal signed in Washington on June 26 stipulates that Hezbollah must be disarmed before any withdrawal of occupation forces can take place. It calls for the establishment of pilot zones in which the Lebanese armed forces would deploy in order to dismantle non-state armed groups, including the resistance. 2 initial zones have been agreed to by the Israeli army and the LAF, and future pilot zones will also be agreed upon by mutual consent. Clause 3 of the framework stipulates, in effect, forcing the Lebanese army to take permission from Israel on where it would deploy. I'm pretty sure they won't like that. The deal would also bar Lebanon from filing legitimate international legal complaints against, or filing illegitimate international legal complaints against Israel, which has killed over 4,000 Lebanese and displaced over 1 million since the start of March this year. Another clause legitimizes support from Arab partners in dismantling the resistance. Hebrew and Lebanese media reports have discussed the existence of secret clauses which aim to solidify Israeli occupation and grant Tel Aviv the right to approve the LAF's work. Tuesday's Washington Post report comes weeks after Hebrew newspaper Israel Hayom revealed that Washington has begun work on a large military base on the Gaza Strip border. The construction of the base aims to advance Trump's so-called peace plan for the Strip. We've learned that the U.S. Army has begun constructing a massive base on the Gaza border not far from Re'im, the outlet said. Trump's Gaza plan was meant to oversee the implementation of a proper ceasefire and withdrawal of Israeli troops from the enclave. Since the plan was launched in late 2025, Israel has killed over 1,000 Palestinians and has significantly expanded its occupation of Gaza. So, and just a little reminder that Hezbollah is the resistance force. It's not part of the Lebanese government. So there seems to be a lot of friction amongst people in Lebanon regarding people on both sides. You have those who support the government, and you have those who support Hezbollah, who don't obviously don't want Israel in their country. And to get the United States in the mix with this base, I see that seemed to be like a wolf in sheep's clothing anyway, with them trying to establish this base near Gaza, to oversee things in Gaza, but let's take a look at what's going on in Lebanon too. And there have been several polls and stuff that saying no boots on the ground here. The people in the United States, no boots on the ground. Like 70% of people are just like, no, we don't want anything to do with that. Yet here we are.
Yeah. When is this going to end?
When the falling rocks hit certain places, that's when I'm like, come on, let's go.
Well, maybe we can just get the heat wave to work on it.
Well, you're not going to vote your way out of this with the people that are in the government right now, because they're the ones that let this happen, right? And they said, well, they're a foreign country. They're a sovereign country. They can do what they want.
Well, let's check out our next story.
Yeah, if you you tighten the purse strings, that tends to get people to do things differently. So yeah, exactly. So this ties into this as Netanyahu has mentioned that we don't need funding. We don't need it. Why would they need funding when they could just integrate with our military? So U.S. Congress blocks attempt to strike down U.S.-Israel military integration. Yeah, a foreign country integrated with ours. Any foreign country integrated with our military is not a good idea. So the U.S. Congress blocked lawmakers Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey's efforts to secure a vote to prevent plans to integrate Washington and Tel Aviv's military industries. This was on Monday, I believe. The refusal came via the U.S. House of Representatives rules process for the NDAA. That's the National Defense Authorization Act. This act determines which proposed amendments to the defense policy bill will be debated and voted on. Democrat Chanda and Republican Massey had proposed an amendment that would have removed the integration initiative called the U.S. Israel Defense Technology Initiative from the defense policy bill. The list of amendments was released on Monday and did not include the Chanda-Massey amendment. The initiative in question would not only fuse the U.S. and Israeli military-industrial complexes, but also military technology and data, as well as AI and autonomous weapon systems. What could possibly go wrong? Such technology is used by Israel in its ongoing genocide of Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip with U.S. backing. U.S.-made weapons have also killed thousands in Lebanon within just a few months. The integration bill has sparked significant backlash at a time when polling continues to indicate growing distrust towards Israel among the U.S. Public. I had that on Morning Extra the other day talking about that. How that's like a good number of people now are like, no, don't really trust those guys. The dangers of allowing any other nation to access our sensitive military technologies are obvious, including the fact that backdoors and spyware, which Israel is known for, can be installed that will most certainly be used by the Israelis to influence U.S. policy, said former director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent. Kent resigned in March over the illegal U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. He also commented that he believed Tel Aviv pushed Washington into the war and refuted the idea that Tehran was seeking to weaponize its nuclear program, to which Tehran has never said that they wanted to get a nuclear weapon, just a nuclear program for nuclear power, but not for weapons. Others besides Kent have also repeatedly expressed concern over Israeli espionage against the U.S. government. This includes former CIA agent and whistleblower John Kirikow, who has recently frequented multiple podcasts and has made viral claims about the Mossad planting listening devices in U.S. intelligence headquarters. Shocking, I know. Congress has also struck down an attempt by Chanda and Massey to remove the $3.3 billion in yearly U.S. military aid to Israel. The push also began earlier this month and has caused a split among Democrats. Let me guess, the Democrats who are getting paid by Israel versus the ones who aren't. Some have defended the push, while others have lambasted it. Soon, the House will vote on an amendment to block taxpayer funding to Israel's military. I will vote yes, U.S. Democratic Representative Greg Cesar said on Monday. The Israeli government committed war crimes in Gaza and helped drag America into war with Iran. Americans should not be financing more weapons for Netanyahu, he added. AOC also said she would vote in favor of cutting the aid. Others have opposed it. There's just too many factors to say we're taking away $3.3 billion, said Representative Gregory Meeks, top Democrat of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I know there is still danger in Israel. I don't want Israel to be without what they need, he added. Without what they need, he added. Plans for the U.S. military integration were revealed last month in a clause of the 2027 NDAA. Section 224 of the NDAA proposes bilateral defense research and developments, co-production of weapons, joint ventures, licensing agreements, and other U.S.-Israel military-industrial complex cooperation. It calls for expanding U.S.-Israeli coordination and integration in the fields of military technology, AI, quantum tech, autonomous systems, directed energy, and biotechnology. I'm not a fan of, as I said, I'm not a fan of fusing our military and our the stuff we have behind the scenes with anybody. That's supposed to be ours. It's supposed to be secret. It's supposed to be, what we do. And this is kind of what Netanyahu has said that he wants. He has said openly now that forget about the $3.3 billion we get every year. We want to do this instead. And that would be, to me, in my opinion, out of the frying pan and into the volcano down below.
Yeah. This is, I can't even believe we're here with this. No. I mean, this seems to me to be common sense. And we're talking about sensitive security information. What kind of access, given the interconnectedness of a lot of data right now, would we be giving the Israelis information about private citizens here? Talk about things like credit scores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What could Israel do with that information?
Yeah.
About private citizens. I mean, the military is horrific, and the amount of chaos that could create is awful. But think about the possibility of everyday interference in the way we go about our lives here.
Yeah, and Israel, unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, Israel does have a lot of influence in the United States through AIPAC and what some have said through the Mossad and blackmail techniques and whatnot. So they do have a grip on our government. So we have to remember that when it comes to election time, and probably be a lot more, have a lot more scrutiny of our people that are running for office. And you're starting to see that too. You're starting to see a lot of people when they're campaigning saying, I don't take AIPAC funds. And, and 10 years ago, that would have been unheard of. Nobody would have said anything about that. But now, because of all the images and videos that have come out of Gaza and other places that have shown that Israel is not exactly defending themselves, rather calling everybody the enemy and just taking them out, is something that is beyond the pale. And it's more and more people are starting to see that now and are starting to react to that as well. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. To answer your question, how can we let this happen? Just years of just apathy. And now people are starting to wake up, which is a good thing. So,
well, they are, but we're knee deep in it, neck deep in it, actually, I should say, and trying to get out of it at this point. This is horrible.
Yeah, I feel like we're when it comes to that, we're in the quicksand pit up to the neck, but I still got to believe that we can claw our way out of this. We just have a lot of voices have to keep being persistent and honest and sincere, and you'll start to see more and more people. And then when you start seeing more and more people start realizing what's actually going on, think about what's going on in the United States. You're seeing more police action and more tightening of rights and restrictions of rights and whatnot because of that. Hey, Nadia, what's up? I can see Ben-Gvir and Smotrich launching drone strikes on Mamdani, Tlaib, Omar, and Khanna if they get command and control over the U.S. Yeah, they could. Yeah, I mean,
and blame the Iranians.
What is it? And they have nukes too. Don't forget that, folks. Israel does have nuclear weapons, although they don't advertise it. They sure as hell do. Let's dip into the press pool now and talk about some press stuff here. As confusion and anger as publisher moves journalists to pay per click contracts. Yes, you're talking about those what is it, subscriptions before, and the stuff that you have like 1 million subscriptions you didn't even know about, but people subscribe to journalists too. So what's this about? As journalists at a leading popular culture publisher have reacted with anger and confusion to news their pay has become entirely dependent on the amount of traffic they personally drive. Yes, the old clicks and views, as it is on YouTube, right? Valnet, a digital media investment company which publishes prominent game sites such as Polygon and Game Rant, as well as cinema sites such as Screen Rant and MovieWeb, issued new terms to 30 freelance writers on The Gamer late last month. The new pay per session rules mean that freelancers are only paid per click rather than there being a base fee. Press Gazette understands that writers who upload their own articles are paid $8 per 1,000 clicks. The Gamer attracts some 9 million website visits per month with 1.8 pages per visit, according to metrics company SimilarWeb. Valnet boasts that it operates 27 media brands, attracting 300 million monthly visitors. At least 25 staff were laid off at Polygon following its 2025 acquisition by Valnet, and all of UK tech site Pocket Lint's staff were made redundant when it was bought by the company. In total, around 30 journalists are believed to work on the Gamer, including 10 in the UK, but all are believed to be on freelance contracts. In the wake of the move, writers for the site posted on social media saying they were no longer being paid a living wage and asking for help. Former The Gamer editor Lex Luddy, who told Press Gazette that the new terms meant writers would effectively take home half of what they were previously paid, depending on department. Writers were previously paid based on volume of output, with minor bonuses for articles which attracted large amounts of traffic. Luddy said almost everyone at the Gamer and other Valnet sites are technically freelance. We would colloquially call them permalancers, freelance contracts with no employee benefit support, but with a workload quota that means no human would have time to freelance other places. They trap you. Luddy describes the reaction among staff to the latest changes as confusion, anger, and extreme frustration with the Gamer's UK-based staff not informed in advance about the new contracts, including the site's editor-in-chief. Luddy said getting hold of and getting straight answers out of Valnet employees is an intentionally difficult process. This is far from the first worker-unfriendly move made by Valnet over the years, but the swiftness and brutality of this one felt different. It felt like a considered hostile move, but so unworkable for most people that it could have only been designed to reduce headcount. And the article goes on here with new contracts. But yeah, this just seems like trying to incentivize these journalists to be more sensational in order to get more clicks, in order to make the money they were making before. Am I wrong there?
It's more than that, Uncle Warren. What they also, when you have this kind of a model, and I'm going to give a little history lesson, but when you have this kind of a model, it also forces these freelancers to do marketing for the publisher for free, because then you're going out on your social media. You might even be paying to advertise that on social media to try and get clicks back to your stuff, to try and make some money and or save your job or your freelance job. So I want to take you on back. We're going to go back to the 2000s. There were, content was exploding online, and there were various what they called content farms online, which were basically these huge sites, eHow and that sort of thing, where people could publish stuff on them, and a lot of them were, you only got paid by generating clicks. And so some people were they were just putting up, we talk about AI slop. Basically, this was human slop that was being put out. In some of the cases, they were paying you money. In some cases, you were getting both money and a hybrid situation where you were getting paid per click, and sometimes it was purely per click. But the quality was so incredibly bad that Google took action, and this was probably around 2010, 2011, with something called Panda. And it was an algorithm shift that made it much harder for that kind of content mill or content farm content to rank anywhere online. And so a lot of the content mills, they stopped doing this. They stopped paying thousands of people very low wages to put out content. They did get rid of a lot of the freelancers, but they were doing it to save their own businesses because the content was so bad. And the pay-per-click model really went out of the way, except for some companies where you would be paid a base amount for whatever you did, and then you would also receive residuals, basically, in the form of pay-per-click. And it worked in some cases. I had one article that I wrote a while back, ended up, it took me maybe an hour to write it, and it ended up making me hundreds and hundreds of dollars in clicks and in affiliate commissions. It was kind of funny, but that was relatively rare, and it was not something that proved to be successful. It was not a viable model. Now, what's happened here is with the rise of AI, all of these sites are saying, great, we can outsource everything to AI writers. We hire some proofreaders. Maybe they might hire a human proofreader to look over it. It goes on up there. And so we don't have to value our writers anymore. We're going to reduce them down to, to basically working for pennies. And they pointed out they're giving these people workloads that are so egregious that they can't freelance anywhere else. And again, we're now getting possibly into the area of misclassification when it comes to labor laws. But this is a very serious thing that's happening to these culture journalists. I have a feeling that this is going to sort itself out. It's already starting to sort itself out. We're already seeing some companies that are realizing that AI slop writing is not a good thing, and they're kind of pulling back and then suddenly panicking and hiring editors and proofreaders and people to work for these companies. But I suspect this company is trying to save a buck or two by doing this. They're going to lose a lot of their freelancers. And I suspect that this is it's going to degrade the quality of their publication. They need to look back to what happened back in the 2000s when the pay-per-click model was all over the place. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now.
No, definitely.
And it's going to compromise the quality of journalism. I know this is culture and gaming, but all of that's still important. And if it's trickling into other publications, that's going to be a serious problem.
Yeah,
for journalism.
Well, I mean, journalism already is taking a hit.
Yeah.
These days, anyway. This ain't going to do it any better. And neither is the Kids Act, apparently, for journalism. We'll get into that in a second, as privacy advocates raise alarm over online verification provisions as House passes the Kids Act. So what does this have to do with journalism? You may be asking. Well, I'll get there. Opponents of a bill that is purported to protect children online said Monday night, after the legislation passed in the House, that laws are urgently needed to stop big tech companies from preying on kids' vulnerabilities. The Kids Act is not that piece of legislation, said Representative Pramila Jayapal, who was one of the 117 lawmakers who voted against the Kids Internet and Digital Safety Act, which passed with 267 votes, while 47 members of Congress didn't vote. The bipartisan bill requires online platforms to use new safety features and parental controls, restrict the use of minors' personal data to target ads, and establishes new restrictions for AI chatbots in online games, right? Well, sounds good, but ahead of the bill's passage, the Electronic Frontier Foundation was among the opponents, raising alarm about other provisions buried inside the Kids Act that would push online services to verify all users' ages, require government-directed moderation policies for online speech, and even create new rules about private and encrypted communications. The legislation, drawing from portions of 14 different online safety bills, is a mess with different age gating schemes for different services using different standards, wrote EFF senior policy analyst Joe Mullen. It's a lot of complexity and a lot of legal risk. Faced with that, many companies will conclude that the safest option is restrictive age checking practices across their entire platforms. As he explained, throughout the KOSA section of the legislation, special protections, controls, messaging settings, and parental tools are required whenever a website or app knows or should have known a user is a child, defined in the bill as anyone under 13, or a teen, defined as anyone between 13 and 16 years old. The problem is a website operator doesn't need actual knowledge that a user is a minor to get in legal trouble. It applies when a platform knows or should have known a user's age, a low negligence style standard of knowledge. If an online service gets it wrong, it's going to be up to courts and regulators to decide after the fact if an online service should have known a user was 16. To try to avoid liability, services will have to determine which users are teenagers and which are not. Most won't be able to simply trust their users. They'll have to collect more information about age before any lawsuit or government action arises. Some companies may respond by requesting driver's licenses or passports Others will rely on age estimation systems that attempt to guess users' ages by looking at existing activity or doing facial scans. At The Intercept, Caitlin Vogus of the Freedom of the Press Foundation and Aliyah Bhatia of the Center of Democracy and Technology's Free Expression Project warned ahead of the bill's passage that while the legislation is ostensibly meant to protect children, the age verification requirement could impact all users' ability to access social media platforms without revealing their identities, chilling anonymous speech, and threatening would-be whistleblowers. Yes, basically outing everybody. Threats to online anonymity harm everyone, but one group is often overlooked: journalists and the sources who talk to them, wrote Vogus and Bhatia. Age verification requirements will help the Trump administration carry out its vendetta against the press by creating new avenues to identify journalists' confidential sources. While the KIDS Act says it won't require online platforms to collect government IDs for age verification, they said at least some platforms will likely choose this route to comply with the law or offer it as a fallback approach when other methods inevitably fail. Former Republican Congressman Justin Amash, a libertarian, accused the lawmakers who voted yes on the legislation of betraying the Constitution and the American people, and journalists too. Other opponents of the legislation, including Jayapal, agreed that the bill would allow tech companies to continue targeting children with algorithms that send harmful content to the youngest users. The legislation admits a duty of care provision that was concluded in the Kids Online Safety Act, that's COSA, which was passed by the U.S. Senate in 2024, a requirement that tech firms exercise reasonable care to prevent harms to children. Jayapal noted that the bill, which faces an uphill battle in the Senate, leaves suicide, depression, addiction, substance use disorders, and eating disorders from the list of harms that tech companies like Meta must address in their algorithms. The duty of care provision has been criticized as too vague by several digital rights groups, while some child safety groups said its omission in the KIDS Act would let big tech off the hook. We have seen time and again that these corporations cannot be trusted, but put children's safety over their own profit margins, Jayapal said. We cannot keep exposing our kids to platforms that are either completely indifferent to their safety or a direct threat to it. The KIDS Act, Jayapal said, also includes provisions that do not do enough to actually address the harms of artificial intelligence. I voted no, she said, because we have a real opportunity to pass bipartisan legislation that holds these companies to not just be transparent about the harms and mitigate them, but to actually prevent them. Yeah. So you have that's the thing. It's like almost like a Trojan horse, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's just for kids. This is to help protect kids. But at the same time, it's like, now we'll get a little bit of, access to your sources, journalists.
Exactly. And again, if that information is going to be shared with foreign countries and their militaries.
Yeah, that's what happens. U.S. lawyer, anti-war activist Dan Kovalek just had his devices seized and was interrogated by counter-terror police at Liverpool Airport. Meanwhile, Palestine activist Sarah Wilkinson is off to court. Yeah, there's definitely a war on journalism now, especially if it doesn't tote the government line, for sure. Which is clownish. And speaking of clownish, segue. So a restaurant owner reacts to a venue fee, or restaurant ownership reacts to venue fee after consumers express their frustrations online. So yeah, this one is particularly interesting. There's an actual video to this.
Yeah, it's egregious.
Yeah, this is like sneaky. Let's watch.
Well, our 8 on Your Side story about an added surcharge at a popular Hyde Park restaurant caused quite a reaction. Yesterday, we told you how people were upset that Roe was adding 3% to the checks. Today, we learned that charge applies to all 3 Oaks properties. As News Channel 8's Emmy Darkia reports, today she heard from the restaurant's ownership.
We received a statement from 3 Oaks Hospitality this morning. In it, we got an explanation of what that venue fee was. They told us the charge was listed on their website too, but when we checked Roe's menus, they were not so hospitable. News Channel 8 was back in Hyde Park on Thursday, trying to get answers after the parent company of Row, Three Oaks Hospitality, responded to our request for comment. We have proactively disclosed our 3% venue fee on our website, reflecting compliance with regulatory standards, is what they said. We wanted to see if the charge is now noted on their menu too, but we weren't allowed to. 8 on Your Side started investigating after concerns were brought up by neighbors on the Nextdoor app regarding a fee that appeared on their checks at Row. It was not listed as a credit card fee and also not specified at the establishment's menu. According to Row's parent company, the 3% surcharge is added to all checks and supports operational costs pertaining to facilities, equipment, and overhead. They also stated we are committed to full transparency, ensuring guests are informed about all charges associated with their dining experience. 8 on Your Side took a look at their webpage where they claim to have the notification. It was there, but at the bottom of the page.
Not acceptable. I shouldn't have to look at your webpage when I'm in your restaurant and there's a menu in front of me.
And that could soon be a thing of the past. Starting July 1st, Section 3 of Florida State Law SB 606 goes into effect. It states every public food service establishment which charges an operations charge, includes an automatic gratuity or service charge in the price of the meal, shall include a notice on the food menu, written contract, and website or mobile application where the food and beverage orders are placed. And some residents are looking forward to see that law take effect.
I feel like if you're trying to be transparent about anything, which at every business, especially restaurants, should be, it should be fine print everywhere. It shouldn't just be at the bottom of a web page.
Three Oaks Hospitality told us that they would be posting the surcharge on their menu starting July 1st when the law takes effect. In Hyde Park, Emmy Dorkia, 8 on Your Side.
Yeah.
Look here, okay? First of all, now they're, these sneaky charges, like hotels have been doing this whole resort fee thing for a while, where, your resort fee covers your access to the fitness center and the swimming pool. Well, that's what you have a hotel for, but they can tack it on and they can make the price of a room look cheaper. Again, this is what they're doing with these restaurants, is that for whatever reason, they're not able to scale their service to run the idea of a venue fee. You're in a restaurant. You're not eating at home. You're not eating on the street corner. Yeah, there's a venue. Why is a venue fee charged separately when you're in a restaurant? You're supposed to build all of that into the cost of what food you have. Now, this is all very convenient for them because that 3% is based on the total check. And so they can incrementally raise prices and make more with that 3% fee. But the question is, why are they not building it in? Well, they don't want to show exactly what they're charging people. And then, of course, you have to pay a tip as well. But the idea that they were only putting this on their website, not on the menu, not letting people know that that $20 appetizer that you've just ordered is not $20. They're not doing that. And it really is egregious. It's good to say that people were complaining on Nextdoor. Nextdoor is a hive of scum and villainy, but it does have its place. And when people are noticing this, they have every right to get upset about it. So I wanted our folks to know about this sort of thing happening. And you need to be checking out those menus, checking out the website, and look at your bill, because there could be surcharges. Now down here, there are a lot of places that do charge you extra to use your credit card, although they say that the credit card fee that you are charged is no higher than what the restaurant is actually paying. But it also offers you the option of paying in cash. I don't think you're going to see that as much in Chicago, where people don't seem to want cash. Down here, people want cash. So you can actually save a little bit of money by not using your card down here. But that is made clear. But this is just a venue fee. It's not a third-party fee. It's the cost of doing business. And if you can't do business without tacking on stupid fees like that, I have to wonder about your operations.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like a little bit of entrapment too. It's like not everybody.
You've already eaten. You've already eaten at that point.
You've already eaten, yeah, and not everybody, when they're looking at a menu online, is going to look at the very bottom of the thing at the very tiny print like that. That's just a legal thing. It's like they should have that on the menus. So at least the CYA of the restaurants say, well, we have it on the menu.
Way at the very bottom. I mean, the only thing I'm going to look at the bottom of the menu is the whole thing about not eating undercooked shellfish, because it'll make
Yeah.
me sick.
Yeah, even then, yeah.
This is BS.
Yeah,
This is,
it's-
restaurants need to stop this crap. And that put the price on the menu. Just
Yeah.
put the price on the menu.
Yeah, it goes back to everything being expensive these days, and people are extremely frugal for the most part. And when you don't do that, then your reputation as a restaurant takes a hit.
It's taking a hit right here. I mean,
and word of mouth is highly popular.
Yes.
When it comes,
and it is the one thing that is trusted. I mean, we don't trust
Yeah.
a lot anymore when with AI slap, but we do trust people who are actually, this is my name. This is where I live. This is my community. I'm your neighbor. And this is
Yeah.
what I'm telling you.
Well, finally today, folks, it's a robbery gone horribly awry in Trinidad and Tobago. It's just, nobody was harmed in the making of this story, so you don't have to worry about that. But I just thought this was kind of funny that a failed robbery on a small Caribbean island of Tobago spawns memes and Batman references. What? So police in Trinidad and Tobago said Wednesday that they are searching for a group of robbers caught on camera who used a backhoe. Wow. She must have been pretty strong to try and steal
Uncle Warren.
to try and steal a cash machine, but bungled the movie style heist so badly they ended up as memes. So security camera footage showed at least 4 suspects fumbling around the crime scene. One of them bore a striking resemblance to Batman. Oh, Batman! Even Batman's broke. I thought he was a millionaire. Come on. Wearing black clothing, a black ski mask, and what looked like a black poncho that blew in the wind like the superhero's cape. That person is seen tripping over debris and falling on the floor while attempting to direct the backhoe. The TNT police service said the suspect's efforts to remove the vault proved futile after the arm of the backhoe sustained damage during the incident early Wednesday. Hopefully she has good medical care. The suspects were able to move the cash machine to the sidewalk with the backhoe, which police said they stole from a nearby beach. But after the backhoe's arm stopped working and their combined efforts to lift the cash machine onto a small truck also failed, the suspects gave up and sped off in what police said was a stolen vehicle. The detached cash machine remained in the open, with authorities later responding to the scene in Tobago, the smaller of the twin island nations. Based on the security video timestamp, the failed attempt lasted over 10 minutes, all while a state of emergency remains in effect. So yeah, those things are very hard to steal. We've seen these in movies and in real life, people trying to steal these things, and you comically see a truck with a chain dragging an ATM behind it down the street. You're like, okay, if the Keystone Cops had met up with these guys, they probably would have met their match. So these were bunglers for sure. Funny stuff. And that's the thing. Nobody got hurt. And, except maybe the ATM got hurt a little bit, probably, but the ATMs don't have feelings. It's fine.
No.
So, but we have feelings, and we appreciate all of you guys.
We do.
Watching our show here. As we told you at the top of the program, we're also broadcasting on Chicago Corner. We appreciate the guys there for letting us do that. And we're still about 3 subscribers away on our channel from 100. So if you can help us out, spread the word, let everybody know. We appreciate that as well. Anything else before we via con Dios?
I'm not celebrating the event this weekend, but I do wish everybody a safe weekend, particularly again with the heat expected. Please do check on your neighbors, friends, and family, but also have a great time this weekend. Yeah.
Be safe, stay hydrated, stay out of hot cars, that sort of thing, and be aware of your surroundings too. Yeah. Heat can make people do crazy things. July 4th on Saturday. This is going to be a hot one.
Yeah.
Probably people are going to be cooling their hands on the fireworks because the rest of the heat is so hot. Probably not. That would be silly. So we'll be back next week with the show at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I myself will be back on Friday for Morning Extra. and the secret show on Saturday night. I may do it's the 2-year anniversary of Morning Extra today, 2 years ago. So I may do a show later today. I have some things I got to take care of first, but if I can do that, I'll let you guys know. I'll put all the notifications and stuff out there for you.
Also remind everybody about our mutual aid links that we got right
Yes.
on. Yoninah right now, she's one of the people on our links. If you can help out at all, it would be really helpful. She is unhoused in Chicago right now with her little cat. And people have been helping her out a bit, but she needs a foster placement, I know, for the cat. So she can get into some kind of shelter and get things straightened out. Anybody who can help them out right now, you can go to that link. She's been updating a bit about her situation. Be much appreciated. Also, there are other if you can share that link out. If you can't contribute, that'd be great, as well as any of those other links. The folks who could be using some help.
Indeed. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. We will see
Thank you, Bila. Yeah.
We will see you again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace, and chicken grease. Stay cool. Fonzie. Word to the mother.